Hi, this is Brasscheck, and I'm recording this on November 24th about something that I saw November 23rd that was originally published on November 5th. All right, so I'm a little behind here. However, I will say that most people are behind. You really need to see this guy's video. He gets all the cavitation stuff better than anybody, and I know that he's 100% physiologically correct. It's one thing to be a hunter, it's one thing to be a Navy SEAL, but you also have to know physiology and you have to know how the body's put together. And this guy, however he learned it, he knows it. Um, he makes it absolutely clear that the shot had to come from Charlie Kirk's right. And I don't know how this is going to look, so I'm not going to put my hand up. But everyone, the official story is it came from the front or it came from a little bit from the side. No, it came from his right side. Now here's the deal. This guy explains it and he does it very well and he does it better than anybody. However, I pointed this out on September 14th, just a few days after Kirk was shot. Meanwhile, the whole podcast world went into, exploding microphones, um, you know, secret pistols in the crowd, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I point out, and you'll see in a second, why it's why we knew on day one where the shot came from, why it took somebody, and good on him to publish this November 5th and to give all the physiological background to it, which I did not do. I just cut to the chase and I said it had to come from Kirk's right side. And I gave the reason why. Now, he goes into a lot more physiological detail, which I found very interesting. And I know a fair amount about physiology, and I know that he's absolutely right. He's really thought it out well. But the point is, this is coming out 2 months after the fact, and people still haven't watched his video, which he's getting very few views, but people should watch it because he's on it like nobody else. And I have to make this point, and it's not to pat myself on the back, but it's just to show the poor quality of analysis and research that's out there. I mean, the mainstream news media we know is useless, but even the big podcasters who create the illusion that they're doing deep research, it ain't happening. And the proof of that is on September 14th, I gave the clear and logical explanation for where the shot had to come from. And it's taken 2 months for somebody to explain that in full technicolor detail related to physiology. Meanwhile, again, we're talking about exploding microphones, we're talking about 30-06, we're talking about being shot from the back, all this kind of crazy stuff. It was obvious to anybody with eyes the direction he was shot in. So here's me on that date of September 14th, just laying out the direction from which he was shot. And then we're going to show this fellow explaining in detail, brilliant detail, frankly, the physiology of the cavitation and why all these so supposedly mysterious things that happened right after he got shot are not so mysterious at all. But the bottom line here is it was absolutely knowable the direction he was shot from. For those of you that didn't see it, oh, so we're reversed. All right. If he got shot front on, which is what they're saying, if I push you from the front, where are you going to go? You're going to go this way.
Back.
Yeah, you might go a little to one side or another. He went, I'm going to have to go reverse. He went fully like that. Okay, go look at the video. If you can find it if you look. Okay, if he went fully like that, that means the shot came from here, from the side.
You can see the big blast, kind of comes back in on itself, happens a little bit again, and then after that, you really can't see the energy going, but hopefully you get my point. So that energy, that cavitation that happens, it comes back, bam, causes even more damage, a little bit more, and right on the backswing, it could be both, is when you see the blood coming out of the wound. And this blue blood, this darker blood, which first off indicates some tissue too, to me, at least from my deer hunting experience. And it was an arterial spray. So if it's not arterial spray, if it was arterial spray, he would have bled out. Now, obviously, if the guys would have got to it, pinched it, or put their thumb in it, like a medic would, then okay, that's the first aid you'd administer. But everyone's saying, well, the security didn't do anything, they didn't do first aid. Well, if there's no first aid to render, what do? You can't really do anything. So you pick them up and take them to the hospital. And they probably, all in their minds, if they have any sort of skills at all, knew that he was gone. But you still got to do something. So if there's no blood pouring out because everything's done internally and it's just all that blood because the energy came out, what are you going to do? It's all internal. So they picked him up. So that's why there wasn't a lot of blood on the scene. So everything in my theory, all the questions that these guys have are answered. But these guys are stuck on, I don't know, maybe they haven't been screwed over by the government. I mean, a lot of these guys are SEALs and Green Beret, but I've been screwed over by the government so many times, I really don't trust anything they say. But they're so focused on the report. Paramount Tacticals did a video yesterday, the day before, talking about, people are debunking all these things. Most of them he's correct, but there's no footage of Tyler actually shooting a gun. There is, you just haven't seen it. Well, if they were so worried about these conspiracy theories, wouldn't they release that to say, here, look, he shot, shut the F up. But they're so focused on the, I forgot it again, the charge report and what it said in there, that they're basically working from the charge report and trying to make everything fit instead of looking at what happened and working backwards. So I think that's pretty much it. He was shot from here, at least from the right side, probably from a high velocity but smaller caliber round, like a 22-250, went in his head. The cavitation happened, didn't leave the skull. All the energy, bam, closed in on himself, basically destroyed him, his tissues and internal tissues. There was at least one, if not multiple. I'm pretty sure there's at least two, if not three, reports talking about how his heart tissue was obliterated. And also there was damage to his, so you got your C cervical vertebrae. So C2 through C6 were damaged. Well, how does it get damaged from the front and there's no exit and it stays in here? So that right there makes no sense. But if the bullet comes in here, okay, and either boom, the energy just shatters the vertebrae because it's going to go out in all directions like an atom bomb, right? All direction, and it shatters the vertebrae, or the bullet went like this, and either from the angle, which this new video while we're doing this kind of now shows, not necessarily proves, but darn near, came in either at that angle and it went like this, crush, C2 to C6, as it's all shown in my video. C2 to C6, C7 and C8 weren't necessarily harmed, but then the bullet landed under his skin right next to his T1. Everything of that works with my theory. So either it got obliterated from the energy or the bullet actually crushed the front and managed to make contact a little bit with his vertebrae.
All right, so we've got to now comment on the doctor who supposedly told one of the Turning Point USA people about the miraculous Charlie Kirk neck. And he goes, oh, well, the entry, I'm not going to point, well, yeah, I will, because now I know how to do it. The entry wound was here, it hit his neck, and then went down and broke all the vertebrae and went into his heart. Okay? Everyone who knows anything and is of the mental age of 6 years old or over knows that that's a physical impossibility. So why is the doctor saying that? Little secret, doctors are idiots. Okay? They're idiots. So the doctor, the learned doctor, has to accept that this was the entry wound, which obviously it can't have been. Okay? But he has to accept that. Therefore, he has to accept the mythology that if this is the entry wound, that the bullet was obviously going in this direction, hit the spine, and then broke everything up and then worked its way down and destroyed the spine vertebrae by vertebrae. He's got to believe that. And this is what's wrong with our doctors. And this is why I spend thousands of hours every year creating content, doing research on what's wrong with our medical system. One of the root problems of our medical system is the fact that our doctors are idiots. And any doctor that could say that a bullet could enter here, any bullet of any size could enter here, hit one vertebrae, spin around, and then suddenly go down and destroy the other vertebrae is a moron. All right. So this fellow who we just heard from gives the answer. It came through, it created this massive cavitation. That alone was enough to break the bones up here, right? And then it closes in again. That could cause a internal. See, we generally aren't aware of how much internal pressure people have, but if you think of like a tire blowing out, you understand the power of that, right? Well, we're kind of like tires, but with fluid. All right, if you imagine that. So when that thing came through, um, and then it closed back. So he's internally, you can't see it. His spine's being whipsawed at right around here, and that would break the vertebrae. So that non-doctor, and many times in the interview, I think he kept saying, "Well, I'm not a doctor," but well, you know what? He knows more than a doctor, right? So I hope that made it clear. So the only way you could think that the Charlie Clark had a miraculous neck is if you believe this was the entry wound, and it was not the entry wound. It wasn't even the exit wound, and that this is the great contribution this fellow has made. Just the sheer whipsawing of pressure was enough to blow out. We're all weak in certain areas, and I guess he was weak along here, and that dramatic pressure flux found its escape in this spot. And he explains with perfect physiological precision, better than 99.9% of all MDs, that this was not an exit wound. It was just simply a rupture. Rupture, things rupture. Anyway, so that's that. And we're going to put the link to this guy's YouTube channel in the video. You're going to see it right here. And then we're also going to put it below. Make sure you see his original work. He's right on it. And he even has the video of what could be the gunman. And I think he's got this nailed 100%. And it's interesting that the $1 million podcasters are not having. Well, Shaun, this guy Shaun Atwood's got him on. Good on you, mate. But other than that, the $1 million podcasters so far are ignoring the best analysis of the physiology of this shooting. And of course, they're ignoring the fact that anybody that saw it would have to know the direction the shot came from. I think a 3-year-old would know. You take a block and you push the block here, and the block goes that way, right? But this just shows you how hypnotized, and hypnotized is not really the right word, but we'll use it. We are by the media. It is way more powerful than you think. We are way more vulnerable to it than you think. And it goes back to something I said way back on September 14th. Who are you going to believe? Me or your lying eyes, right? We can see the direction that Clark fell in, right? He fell that way. Um, that tells you where the force came from. And so for the last 2 months, everybody's been running around with like a chicken without their head, trying to come up with, exploding necklaces, exploding, microphones, secret, handguns in the crowd, all kinds of nonsense. When really an astute 3-year-old could have told you which direction the force came from. All right, that's it. Check out this guy's original work. He's right on the money.
Brasscheck TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.